Alright, so a lot of people have asked how I hit 7 million DPS with my Famas build, and this is how I have it set up. So, this is my first build video, so I'll go ahead and preface that. You know, I know there's no flashy editing or anything, but anywho, let's get to the point here. So for starters, I went with the sharpshooter specialization mainly for the stability. I used the Famas. It is a monster, but it kicks like hell. So sharpshooter helps out a lot with keeping this thing stable. As far as what I have on it, it rolled with Ranger. I put Allegro on it, and yes, I realize it comes with 900 rounds per minute right off the gate, but I wanted it to have 990 rounds per minute. It has rooted on there. That doesn't really matter. I guess occasionally it helps out with my healing. With it only happening once every 60 seconds, it's not a huge deal. You can really have whatever you want there. Ideally, I would like to have protected reload there. As far as my mods on it, I put 8% on the scope for damage to elites. I rolled more stability. Not rolled. I put the angled grip on it for more stability. 5% damage to elites on the barrel. And then, of course, the extended round, or extended mag for the extra 20 rounds and minus 10% reload speed, which doesn't really affect me too much. Now, the chatterbox is my secondary. This thing is a monster. It's overlooked. I am really surprised that there aren't more people that use this. The gun itself isn't really that great. I mean, it's okay ever since TU6 came out, but the reason I use it is for the Blabbermouth perk. While holstered, reloading your weapon within 5 seconds after a kill grants 15% rate of fire for 10 seconds. Now, the gun that I'm using, the Famas, already has 990 rounds per minute. So, after I kill, I simply reload and I get another 15% rate of fire. That's insane. As for my secondary, I use a D50 and I have overlap on it. While holstered, gain plus 5% weapon handling. That helps to keep that Famas stable. That's the biggest thing. Stability is overlooked like crazy in this game. Now, I use a Badger Tough mask because it gives me 7% damage to elites. I have farmed the crap out of masks, and I found a 54% damage to elites roll, so I put that on here with 5.5% crit chance. The health I wish was higher, but you take what you can get. As for my chest, I use Fenris for the 10% assault rifle damage. It has 10.5% headshot damage, 30,000 health, which isn't bad, and 15.5% weapon damage. I also have Vigilance and Hard Hitting. Vigilance is huge, gained plus 25% weapon damage, just for the hell of it. Taking damage disables this buff for 4 seconds. Now, this perk I feel like is hugely overlooked in this game. It came out with TU6, of course. They just give you 25% weapon damage. That's ridiculous. If you get hit, if you take cover and pop a chem, 4 seconds go by quick, and you have that 25% back. It is a monstrous perk, and I'm surprised not enough people use it. I also have a mod on here, 6% assault rifle damage, 0.5% weapon damage. Guys, mods are tremendous in getting your damage up, or your armor up, or whatever you want. With this build, I went with more damage. I mean, yeah, I have 5 blues, but, you gotta have some survivability. It's a little squishy, but I survive better than most people with 300,000 armor, and it's just a matter of how you play. Not to mention, when you're doing, 7 million DPS, you typically kill stuff before it kills you, so there's that. For my holster, I have used this thing for a long time. because it's got 30,000 health. It's a Gilligard, by the way. So I get the 5% armor, 30,000 health, 15.5% crit chance. I cannot find higher than that, but, you know, I'm pretty happy with that. And again, the mods. So I have 6% weapon damage, essentially. 2% weapon damage, 4% assault rifle damage. Add those up, that's 6%, right? And then the bottom one, 5% assault rifle, 1% weapon damage. I don't care about the rifle damage or the pistol damage. The main thing is those other two, assault rifle and weapon. Those add together. So that's another 12% total that I've added just to my holster, right? As for my knee pads, I went with Wyvern. Why? Honestly, I don't know. I don't need the drone skill power, but this had a pretty good talent on it. Composure. Also, I rolled 8.5% crit chance, which is the highest I found on knee pads. Composure, while in cover, grants plus 10% total weapon damage. So think about this. On my chest, I had Vigilance, that's 25%. And then I have Composure, that's 10%. So you're talking 35% weapon damage just in 2 talents, okay? Now, if I go down to the mod here, another 5% assault rifle damage and 1% weapon damage. And I'll explain how I got these mods in a little bit. I'm trying to stay on subject here. For my gloves, I've used these since pretty much the beginning. Alp Summit is amazing. It has 10% assault rifle damage. That can go up to 13%. However, I rolled Devastating onto it because with assault rifles, I've noticed that weapon damage is absolutely huge. So, yeah, technically that 10% could go to 13, but by rolling Devastating, I got it up to 15. So got 2 more percent out of it by doing that. Ideally, I would like to find one of these, if they roll this way, where it already has Devastating on it, and then I can roll 13% assault rifle damage onto it. But, again, you know how RNG is. The skill haste that comes on the Alp Summit, I'm not super worried about. I guess it helps out with my chem launcher. And my turret, which I will get into next. So the assault rifle damage mod I have on here, this one is my weakest. It's only 4% plus the 1.5% weapon damage, so 5.5%. Still, that's a good mod, but it also has 1% damage to armor. So, technically 6.5% damage to an armored enemy. So that's pretty solid. So altogether, if you think of it that way, you're looking at 15% between the 10 and the 5 plus the 6.5, so 21.5% damage just on the gloves. My backpack, this has the next major key here. It is also a Wyvern wear, so I've got that crit damage. Again, I don't need the drone skill power, it's just there. I found a 10.5% weapon damage, so I rolled that attribute onto this. It also has 4.5% crit chance, and it gives me a little bit of armor. Spark is awesome. Damaging enemies with skills or explosives grant plus 15% weapon damage for 15 seconds. Now, this talent is amazing. It says 15 seconds. That's if it hits them one time and stops. But what I do is I will use my assault turret and I will have it constantly hitting enemies. I will place it somewhere up high so it's shooting down on the enemies. It makes them hard to, I can't word this properly. It makes it difficult for the enemies to take cover because it's beaming down on them. So I'm constantly hitting them, and Spark keeps refreshing every single time one of those bullets from the turret hits the enemy. So it's nuts. It's insane. I constantly have another 15%. So earlier I mentioned Vigilance with 25%. That's on the vest. Composure on the knees for 10%. So that's 35%. Now I have another 15%. Okay? So you're talking, what, 50% extra weapon damage just in the talents. Okay? So, as for my mod, I have this. Now, it doesn't give me a lot of armor, but I'm mainly after that explosive resistance. Explosions in this update are overpowered as hell. I don't care what anybody says, they're overpowered. So, explosive resistance really helps out. It also gives me the 30% hazard protection with insulated. That's huge, especially in the raid when you're fighting Weasel and you have the poison. That 30% definitely helps out. Now, I told you, I run the assault rifle turret. Now I want you to see, there are no mods on here. It has a cooldown of 50 seconds. I do not let it hit 50 seconds. What do I mean by that? I will break this thing before it runs out on its own, so it cuts that cooldown in half. So it's only a 25-second cooldown. My chem launcher, also, I have 0 mods on it, as you can see. Chem launcher, I mean, it kind of sucks now. The cooldown is 16.7 seconds, just, by default, so there's that. But, it does its job, I suppose. As for my stats, let me show you this. Now, keep in mind, this does not factor in vigilance, or composure, or spark. So, 50% of my weapon damage is not included on here. So, for starters, I have 34% crit chance, 32% crit damage. Crit chance can max out at 60. I'm not going for a crit build. This isn't a clutch build. I build on my own. I don't really go for the whole meta that so many people seem to seek. I like finding stuff on my own, so there's that. It has 66% headshot damage. I am not the most accurate human being. So headshot damage, it matters when I actually hit a headshot because it'll be a surprise and it usually drops them super quick, especially when you have over 1,000 rounds per minute. When I reload and get the blabbermouth perk from the chatterbox, this thing does have well over 1,000 rounds per minute. So if I hit them once in the head, chances are I hit them 3 or 4 more times in the head and they're gone. Now, I have 40% stability. Remember, do not overlook stability. It is phenomenal. It is so overlooked that it's ridiculous. Now, for the fun part. I have 59% assault rifle damage, 37% all weapon damage. That gives you, 96%, I believe? So 96% damage between these two perks. And because I have the Badger Tough mask with a 7%, and I rolled it with 54% damage to elites, and then I have the extra 13% on my weapon, it brings me to 99% damage to elites. That's ridiculous. That's more than I had in TU5. Originally, when I heard about TU6 and all the changes they were going to be making, I was worried because I knew that my builds were going to be destroyed, and they absolutely were. But honestly, it's a good thing because this build is a monster. In fact, all of my builds right now are monsters. This one's probably my favorite because I love assault rifles. But one thing I haven't mentioned yet, at least I don't think I have. So you have the 59% for assault rifle damage, the 37% for all weapons damage, right? So again, that's 96. Now I also had the 50% between vigilance, composure, and spark. Guys, that's 146% weapon damage. That's insane. And you can keep that up constantly. I mean, if you get hit, it's gone for 4 seconds, 25% of that. Okay? So even when I get hit, I still have 121% weapon damage, assuming my turret is still hitting people and I'm still in cover. So, and it comes back in 4 seconds. Like, it's insane. This build hits like crazy. So, that's about it. I think that covers the build. Like I said, I do have a lot of different builds that I could go over. If you guys are interested, let me know. But yeah, I appreciate you guys watching. This is Splooge, and I'm out.